There we go. Okay. So this week, free apps, top 10, iTunes U. That makes sense. First few weeks of school, a lot of universities use iTunes U full, much more than we do here on campus even. And they port all their courses through iTunes U, like MIT, Stanford, Harvard. All the professors upload their iTunes. Usually have a student in the back of the class that uploads it for them at the end of the session, and it's uploaded before they go to the next class. So that makes sense as number one. Bitmoji, personal emojicon, Snapchat, Messenger, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Maps, Bottle Flip, and Solitaire. Somebody told me before class, I think it was you, told me about Twitter trying was it the NFL feed, one of the games?
Yeah, Twitter.
I guess that kind of flopped. How many was you said was viewers?
2.1 million views that confirmed for at least 3 seconds, so it's pretty weak.
Okay, yeah. So probably but I was telling him I didn't really hear much hoopla about it the last couple of weeks. I did like a month ago, but I didn't hear much about it. Maybe they were just trying to work out the kinks maybe, and that's why they didn't promote as much. Anybody gets a chance to play with it or see it? Okay. I guess they took a hit in the stock price, as you said. 4%. Well, they can afford it. I'm sure they'll be fine. But, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they didn't promo it much. Maybe they were just trying to work out some kinks, maybe. Top paid apps, Minecraft, and then Kevin Hart has a new app, which should be funny, probably, I'm guessing, if you like Kevin Hart. Heads Up, Emoji Maker, and Light, Facetune, Blooms, TD, Plague, Geometry Dash, and Minute Workout. Last week we went over GitHub, submitting your final app idea. If you've not yet submitted your final app idea, you have till 11:59 or technically midnight tonight to do that. Just pick an app idea that you really want to work on, something that, and don't worry about, even if you've looked ahead of time in our schedule, and you're like, well, we're not covering that unique part that I'd like to do, I'll help you with the code, whatever it is you need help with. I do that every semester. And so whatever snippet of code or whatever you need to get help to get started, I'll definitely help you. So don't let that stop you with an app idea. Fork and clone with GitHub is what we'll do tonight. We'll go over that first. What you guys could be doing right now is go ahead and go to github.com while we're talking over the slides and log in with your GitHub username and password. You can also log into the Mac GitHub app like we did last week with your username and password, your GitHub username and password. We'll need to do those two things before we do a fork and clone, which we'll talk about what that's about in a second. We're going to basically download a portion of an app, a starter of an app on Hide Keyboard. You'll put some code in there from the handout I gave you. This handout, by the way, is online as well. It's where if you get stuck or you do want, you're having a hard time or something towards the end and you want to rush it to get it done, you can use the online version. I'm not saying you can't use it. This just might be easier if you want to type it in without having to go back and forth on the screens. We'll also talk about scroll views, how they're used in apps within iOS apps. So what a fork does on GitHub is allows you to copy an existing GitHub repo to your repo. My repo, or our repo for the class, is iOS course. And so like tonight we're going to go to a repo for this week. And what you're going to do is fork it to your repo. And here's my repo, CHKON. And so when I fork it, it's literally like taking your fork on somebody's plate and putting it on your plate. You're literally, except it's copying it. Be like putting your fork in somebody's steak, and as you're bringing it over, it's actually copying that steak and giving you the whole steak as well as what they had on their plate. Doesn't take that long to do, but the reason you need to fork a repo is before you can make any edits or changes to a repo, you have to fork it onto your account. And once you do, then it's yours to do with as you wish. And so once we've fork and clone, you must fork before cloning repos in order to be able to say changes. Because if you were to just clone one from iOS course and make changes and then try to submit them, it would error out because you don't have rights to submit anything. You can read everything and download everything, but you can't push changes. All right, does that make sense? So that's what forking is basically. It's nothing real complex. But anytime you find a repo on iOS course or any other repo as you're doing your final app, you might find some cool examples on GitHub. Always fork those. And what I always do sometimes, even if I don't have time to look at them right now and run them, I'll fork them anyway, and then later on download them and look at them to see if I want to use anything in there or not. Steve Jobs had a common saying where he said all software somewhere down the line in some form or fashion is stolen, whether it's the idea, whether it's the code. And if you've ever seen the movie Pirates of Silicon Valley, you need to see it. Talks about how Apple got started, how Microsoft got started, and they both borrowed from each other, by the way, not only in software but in hardware as well. So as developers, don't ever feel bad about borrowing code, but I'll try to give recognition though for those who I do borrow code from, whether in their GitHub repo, thanking them for it, sharing it, because I love doing the same thing. If somebody uses my repo for something and it helps them succeed in their app, that's great. That's we all win. And so I think you'll enjoy GitHub if I know you're just getting into it, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of apps on GitHub that you can download and play with. Some of them are just niddly piddly apps that you would never want to use, but then some are pretty cool. And some big name people use GitHub continually for their software repos. An example, Google, for all of their apps, uses GitHub for the most part. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all these folks use GitHub repos. And a lot of websites use them too, because it fits website ecostructure because you can make changes from anywhere. There is apps you can download too on your phone, both Droid and iOS, that allows you to a GitHub app that allows you to go into your GitHub account and make changes. And like I said, once you get savvy enough with your code, with iOS or web or whatever, you can make changes on the fly. So forking is important. If you ever want to make a change, before you do those changes, you need to fork them to your account. So hiding the keyboard is important because out of the box, iOS does not hide the keyboard for you automatically. So you have to put hooks in the app to do that. So like UI text fields, when a person puts their name in there and types it, the keyboard pops up as soon as you tap your finger in there, right? What happens is when an object like UI text fields and UI text views are entered, it becomes what's called a first responder. The first responder fires keyboard hooks to show the keyboard, and then the keyboard must be hidden via delegates and code and what's called tap gestures combination. An example is on any app, iOS or Droid, that's worth its salt, when you're in a text box and you tap away, it hides a keyboard, right? There is no other way to do it but tap gesture on both platforms and a few lines of code throughout the app. And what's nice about hide keyboard function is I like to do it on my Mac at home. I save it as a code snippet, and a code snippet in Xcode we'll look at a little bit tonight how to do it. You can copy code, drag it into code snippet in Xcode and save it as a name like hide keyboard. And then later on when you create other apps, you just drag that snippet into your into your app and not have to retype everything over and over again. So that's always nice. So over the years, you'll build different snippets like hide keyboard, like connected database, like security information, things of that nature, comments you want to put in. So snippets are really nice to use, and we'll do that tonight, show you how it works. So here's a function for hide keyboard. They did change it a little bit with Swift 2 or Swift 3, 2 and 3 actually. Override function touches begin, touches set UI touch with event, UI event. All this means is anytime a user taps a screen, an event happens. Whatever that event is, you're going to put in the override function touch begin. And what this one's going to do, this text first.end editing true, is going to force to resign the first responder if that text first is the fingers in that one and they're typing their name. It's going to hide that text first when the user touches the view controller. Okay, what I mean by that is it's got your view controller here. That's not a really good red one, but we'll use it anyway. So here's your text box. Here's your view controller here. Anything here that's your view controller is empty. Your fingers in here. You make your text. You tap anywhere outside of this on the view controller, and the keyboard hides with that gesture. Does that make sense? And so it's ending the forced resign or forcing the resign of the first responder to hide the keyboard. And you guys have been to websites too, maybe like when you went to a website that has a form. It's really nice if the developer has some forethought when you go to a web page that has a form, when it puts a cursor in that first field. It's so much nicer, right? You can do that as well by just allowing in the load command a first responder, name of the object .first responder, and what it's going to do is put the cursor in that text field. Dismiss keyboard is a function I use to dismiss all objects that I want to dismiss on a form anytime that a user taps the view controller. So if I had five text boxes on the form, I would put 5 of them in there and .end editing true on all of them. So here's a Viewdidload of the code we're going to look at tonight. It's also in your handout. But in fact, if you look at your page, there might be, that's pretty big text, but I'll look on your handout too. It'll be maybe easier to view. Page 3 of your handout, number 9, comment, where it says modify the existing Viewdidload function, default function to load when the view is shown. Remember, the Viewdidload is a function in your app that loads whenever the app runs, when the view is shown. And what I want you to notice here is as you go down under where it says looks for single or multiple taps, let tap :UI tap gesture recognizer equals UI tap gesture recognizer target self action dismiss keyboard. What's happening here is I'm putting this in the load command, it automatically creates a gesture now, a tap gesture to that view. And that view is actually targeted called self, all right? The action is every time you tap anything on the view, it's going to go to the function dismiss keyboard, all right? Spelling's real important in here. Like if I put a lowercase d, it would not work because my function name is uppercase D for dismiss keyboard. The next comment on line 68 there says add tap gesture to scroll view, which we'll call dismiss keyboard and hide keyboard. So scroll view dot add gesture tap. What that's going to do is we have a scroll view in the app tonight. A person enters in contact information, hits save, and it scrolls down to the bottom of the scroll view. The tap is anytime the scroll view is tapped, it's also going to dismiss keyboard as well. The next comment on line 70, where it says get screen size of current device. This is helpful for iPhone, different versions of iPhone size-wise, different versions of iPad size-wise. So what this line does is it takes the screen dimensions and it plugs it into the bound X and Y coordinates into the variable called size. It uses a method called CGRect, which stands for rectangular. All right, and it's taking all the coordinates for the height, width, and also the X and Y coordinates. Next one on line 72, it just shows you some of the variables for a screen. Might be left 0, top 50, width or device in pixels, height or device in pixels. The scroll view.frame, what this is going to do is start at 0 on the upper left, 50 from the top. It's going to be the width of the screen of the device and the height of the screen of the device. And the reason I put 50 in there is for the menu at the top. The battery and time and all that good stuff. It's usually a default 50 put up there. There are some apps, by the way, like gaming apps, you can cover the battery, right? And gaming's about the only apps Apple really lets you do that with. Any other utility app, they want to see the battery, the user to see the battery and the time. But everything else, and also the cellular companies like you to show where you can see the cellular strength as well, or Wi-Fi strength. Then the next one, line 75, this is actually going to show the focus to the first text box, text first, dot become first responder. Like I said earlier, the web developers putting the cursor in that first text box on a form. What that's going to do is put the cursor on the first text box on your form for the first name. All right, go back to the overhead. So scroll views, what they are, is they're used to wrap objects to scroll into one view controller. That's kind of cool. So instead of making multiple view controllers for tonight's app, I'm going to use one view controller and a humongous scroll view to go. I could go forever on it if I wanted to. Now, it's a little cumbersome if you go more than like duplicate of that scroll view height or that view height. It's kind of difficult to do, not impossible, but kind of difficult. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about when we play with it tonight. But it's perfect for like what we're using it for tonight, and maybe even like FAQs. It might be good for. Might be good for maybe some type of index that you have for a help file on your app for people to find how to do something. It is an outlet. Scroll view is not an action object; it's an outlet object. It uses CG point to determine where to place the object in the scroll view, either top, bottom, left, or right. And here's basically, you'll see tonight in the app how to set a scroll view. The top commented out areas are the actual syntax used on setting the scroll view. Set scroll view, really more like a pseudocode. Set scroll point at go to 0. X equals 0, Y equals 0. X from the left, Y is from the top on any screen, on any monitor, any coding you do. X is always left, Y is always top, from the top. And then top of the scroll view, animated. What I mean by that is it's nice when you're scrolling to be a smooth scroll, not like a choppy scroll or a intermediate scroll. You want it to be kind of smooth. And you'll see that tonight. So here, scroll view.set content offset, CG point 0, animated true. You declare the scroll point first with the CG point, whatever that CG point is. Then you get the XY coordinates. In this case, notice I want it to go to the button on the scroll view that's at the bottom. You'll see in a second. So what I do is I do CG point make 0, which is, remember, from the left, top left, or the left of the screen, not top left, just left of the screen. BTN back.frame origin.y. That's the exact coordinates, Y coordinates of the back button on the view controller. And so I know this red's about out, but hopefully you can see it. So I'm gonna pretend this is a extension of I take a scroll view and I take this view controller, make it even bigger now, all right? And I have maybe a button down here that says back. But when you view the app the first time, all you see is up to this point in the window. You won't even let you go below that in the scroll view. But when they click, like say, maybe a button here called View, it's going to go down to this button here by that scroll point. The Y coordinates here are the back button, if that makes sense. We'll say the Y coordinates is 526 or whatever. Okay. So when I hit back, I might want to go back to the Y coordinates of the view button. Same deal. So you'll see how it works. It's not real difficult to do. It's used a lot in gaming for objects being destroyed or being spawned, either one. And you've all played games where that happens. Candy Crush, which I'm guessing is the most popular game still for some people. Never played it, but my son's played it and he told me not to ever play it. He said, because you will get hooked on it. Does anybody play Candy Crush, by the way, and you've dropped yourself from playing it? Anybody? Okay, be honest. Okay, good, thank you. He has as well. He's 6 months not played Candy Crush, but he says, because his wife turned him on to it, and he thought, it's a stupid game. I'm not gonna like it. 2 weeks later, he's up at like midnight playing Candy Crush. So anyway, I guess it's an addictive game. Oh, and by the way, he told me why it's addictive. Why is it addictive to you guys? What's addictive about Candy Crush, by the way? It's good to talk about because hey, they've done pretty good. Yeah.
Isn't it just a bejeweled copycat of candy?
What is it now?
It's a bejeweled copycat of candy.
It is Bejeweled copycat of candy. And probably a lot of people might even know about Bejeweled, possibly. I don't know.
No, like Bejeweled better. Bejeweled graphics are amazing.
Okay, so
And
graphics.
the sound
Good.
effects, like it's all about the graphics and sound effects.
Yeah, so graphics. What would you say? What would you say, Tyler?
You have live, so it's hard to look at. You have live, so it's they can come back when you have a live.
Okay, so yeah, that's what you're saying. Because where they make money is, if I'm not mistaken, is you can pay for more lives, right? And so you can either wait a certain amount of time to get a life, right?
Replayability.
What is it?
Replayability.
Replayability.
Set
Good.
up artificial goals that motivate you to keep going.
Right. So some type of goal to get you going back. Yeah, it is pretty addictive, though, right? So I mean, we can learn. You can learn as a developer from some of the stuff they've done, definitely in any game, I would guess. But even in that game, that we're talking about, there's going to be many CG points within that game to determine object location, creation, being destroyed. Lives, I guess, would be a good example in that one, and spawned. Going on the next slide. What we're going to do is, in just a second, did you guys get logged into GitHub, by the way, and to the local Mac? Sweet. In the InClass assignment page on Eagle, let's go there real quick. Go to the InClass. There is a link in the InClass for under number 3, where it's to go to week 5 start file, fork and clone it, or fork to your GitHub account, clone it, then follow instructions. So if you want, we'll do this together. Go ahead and click on the week 5 start link. It'll launch GitHub and go to the start repo. Now I've already forked mine earlier, so what I'm going to do just to show you how to do it, I'm going to fork something else differently than that one. I'm going to fork something else. We'll do that one. Okay, so here I'm forking one called My Browser Start. You guys are on the hide keyboard. At the very top right of GitHub, there is a fork icon. And right now, it might say 1 or 2 or 0 or whatever it says. Go ahead and click on that fork icon. Then you'll have an option to choose your repo or your account if you have more than one account. If you only have one account, it should go right to your account. Well, I'm going to click on my account. If you do have more than one account in GitHub, you can click on that link, the account you want it to go to. It'll do a little refresh, like a fork on a screen. It's forking it to where finally when it's finished, you should see at the top URL, github.com, your name, / and then the week 5 hidden keyboard. Correcto mundo? Now, I'm going to go to the one I have because I do have the week 5 on mine as well. So here's the one I forked, and if we scroll down and look at that forked account real quick of the files, I just want to kind of show you what's going on here. When we download this to our Mac, the .xcode proj, remember, is the beginning file to always click on to open. The code for steps.txt is the handout I gave you. So if you want to go back and click on that, you can do that to copy and paste code if you want to. The hide scroll keyboard and scroll.pdf, that's for your take-home assignment because you're going to do this from scratch between now and next Monday. Tonight you're having a start file to start with, but I want you to do it from scratch. You'll add a few more fields to it and everything. So, if you will go to the very right side of your GitHub page for that repo, there should be a clone or download. Click on that, the green button, and then select Open in Desktop. It should prompt you to say, yes, it's okay, your Mac, it's okay to open up GitHub, and then start the forking or start the cloning process in the GitHub on your Mac app. Once it's finished, it should look like mine on the overhead. You should see on the left side of GitHub the repo week 5, hide keyboard. And so I'll kind of walk around and see how you go. Perfect. I just want to make sure everybody's there before we go on. Might take a little bit, depending on the internet's not real fast here. So as soon as it accepts, as soon as you get prompted to click on that green button in GitHub and click on the green button and then select clone. You'll have 2 options. One will be zip, download, and one will be clone. All right, good. Did you log into the Mac GitHub account here? Gotta do that first. And then go to GitHub Desktop Preferences, remember? The GitHub Desktop Preferences link. You probably did this, guys, but anytime you get a prompt for CIS280 in here, always put that bootcamp password in there. That's where we are admins. Okay. Oh, you're going to clone this, by the way, to your desktop. So I think by default it puts it in documents or something.
Yeah.
If you already did that, by the way, it's no big deal. But from now on, we'll always clone it to your desktop. So click on the drop down where it says documents and select desktop. Okay, click on accounts. And put in your GitHub username and password.
Will it log in if we're logged in on the web version, but we're not logged in on the desktop?
Okay, if you're not logged in on the desktop version, you will need to do that. Just click on the GitHub menu on your Mac and go to Preferences. Once you've opened up GitHub, go to GitHub Preferences and then Account and log in. Okay, you're good now. Now go to the repo on the website and go back, hit the back button until you get back to the week 5. Click on the user, go to our class and the InClass, so make sure you're on the right repo. This takes a few minutes the first time, so no big deal, so we got time. We'll make sure you guys know how to fork the phone, so if you need help, that's what we're here for. Yeah, so click on week 5, go to provide InClass. And if you see your neighbor needs help, if you wouldn't mind helping them, if you kind of look over and if everybody needs help, if you're already done, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah. that start link. And then click on the clone or download. And click open in desktop. And then see where it says where documents? You're going to select desktop. Down towards the bottom. And then clone. Press the clone button. And it should start cloning now. Good. Anybody else need help on cloning to your desktop? Raise your hand if you do. I'll come around and help you. Okay. Yeah, if you do it the first time, you're fine. All right. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, you got it. And you did get logged into your GitHub desktop? Yeah, good. Logged in, cool. Now here's why I do it. When I'm opening up GitHub or in my repo on GitHub on the Mac, even though I told you guys to repo it to your desktop, I never trust it just because I might have, I don't know, and you'll have this happen too, 4 different versions of that app possibly on my Mac. So here's what I do, and this will help you, okay? See on the left side under GitHub where it says week 5 hide a keyboard? If you press the control key on your keyboard and click on that link, you have a few options. I can open it in GitHub, I can open in Finder, I can open in Terminal, Atom. We want to go to open in Finder. What this is going to do is go right to the folder where we repoed it to and cloned it, which is our desktop. But this is how I recommend always open up a repo. Use your GitHub Mac app, open in Finder, that repo, right? Then all you have to do is double click on the hidekeyboard.xcodeproj, or if it's another project, .xcodeproj would be the file you want to double click on. Once you double click on that, it's going to launch it into Xcode. I've already opened mine earlier, so yours is not going to launch as quick. So it'll take a little bit for Xcode to run, recognize everything, and get started. While yours is opening, by the way, let's look at mine on the overhead if you wouldn't mind to save time here. It's a pretty simple app. You'll notice on mine, I've got, it's called My Contacts, first name, last name, email, view contacts, and save. If I keep scrolling down, you'll notice there's nothing else down there. So, it looks like there isn't anyway, but there is. If I click on this scroll view and drag up, you'll notice a whole other area of content in there. A back button and a view. You don't need to do this, by the way. I'm just showing you. And then I'm going to do a Command Z to go back to where it was. There we go. Because I don't trust myself on being exact on that drag, so I just do a Control or a Command Z, which is a Windows equivalent for Control Z to undo what I've just done. So how many is still waiting on Xcode to open the project? Okay, so if everybody will click on the main.storyboard on Xcode on the left side, main.storyboard, and little tip here for you. In the middle part, I'm having to bring mine, zoom it out a little bit because my screen's so big on resolution. But if you ever want to zoom out your storyboard, if you take your cursor and click it anywhere, your arrow, click it anywhere in the storyboard, and on your Mac keyboard, do a Command minus, it's going to zoom out. A Command plus will zoom in accordingly to where you can see more of your objects. Now, if I want to edit this, remember, anything on here, I have to double click on the view to bring it into focus to do anything. It won't let me do anything otherwise. Okay? So, right now, if we go ahead, is your guys set to simulate on the iOS 6s Plus, by the way? Okay. So let's go ahead and do a Command R, which is going to take a little bit, probably the first time to run, but that's okay. There is some code in here, but not the meat of everything. But the hooks are all in there for the save button to work, or the save button to function anyway. View, all the text boxes and stuff. So once this is compiled successfully and it starts loading our simulator, remember when the simulator shows up on your Mac, go ahead and click on the simulator and go to the window of that simulator and let's scale it down. The window menu of that simulator and scale it down to, I'll do 25% on mine. You guys probably will get by with 33%, I'm guessing, on your computer. But I'm going to do 25%. And we'll just let this sit there. Okay, well, I'm going to talk more while we're letting it sit there. Okay. So what we're going to do once this runs the first time is we're going to take our handout I gave you and start going through line by line on the view controller, some code to put in. It's not a lot of code, but you have to type some stuff in. And if we run out of time, or if you don't want to mess with it, you can copy this as well from the GitHub repo. Okay. So what's going to happen here is in just a second, when we run this, we'll see the 3 fields at the top. I don't have the code in there to go to the button yet, but we will in a second. When we hit the save button, it's going to save the contents in a text box, those 3 text boxes, go to the text view at the bottom, and show it, basically. And what it's going to do is every time the users do that, it's just going to add and append to that view a new contact. Okay? It doesn't save anything because if we stop the app and run it again, there's nothing there. It's just to show you the power of scroll view, hiding your keyboard, and sending something to another location on a view using CG scroll point. So that's all it does, basically show you. Which you use those features, by the way, tons in an app. Every app's going to use hide keyboard. Every app, well, not every app, but majority apps use scroll view because if scroll view is needed when you're filling any type of form out on a view, and you want the user's focus to always be at the top of the form on the device, scroll view is used to do that. Because when they tap on the object, the scroll view automatically goes to the top of that scroll view to where the user just sees that very top field. So if it's first name, last name, email, phone, right? As they're tapping on each field floats to the top of that scroll view as they're editing it. That makes sense? And so the reason we do that in mobile app development is why do you think? Why do you think it's important to do that in a mobile app, to use a scroll view? Anybody? What could be a problem if we didn't use a scroll view?
Not enough space.
What is that?
Not enough space.
Not enough space, exactly. You'd run out of space. And you'd be henpecking too, maybe sometimes on where was I at, where am I at on the form? Because some forms, we're only having 2 or 3 fields, 3 fields in ours, but it's not uncommon to have 10 fields in something. And the one you guys are going to be doing for your take home, I think, has 8 or 10 fields I have you put in there. And so using a scroll view allows you to effectively use the real estate on the app screen, and all apps do this for both Droid and iOS. Or they should anyway. If you we've all probably ran apps where they didn't do that way. Maybe we had to kind of scroll up manually maybe to do it. But it's not real hard. You'll find out tonight how to use a scroll view. There's 3 or 4 methods to use every time that you have to implement. You can save the scroll view code as a snippet, and it's going to be used exactly the same way every time in every app. Same thing with the hide keyboard functions. So once you do it once, you don't have to retype it in again if you've saved it as a code snippet. Okay, cool. So mine's running now. And goes to the splash screen. Eventually it'll go to the form for the view controller and show me the nice 3 text boxes at the top with a view button and a save button. That should be all I'm able to see right now because that's all that's in the scroll view area. It's all allowed to be in there right now. Okay, so as you can see, I can't go down any further, and you probably can't either on yours. If I click on these text areas and click away, you'll notice the keyboard still stays up. It's still, so go ahead and click on first name, last name, or email, and then click away on any of the white space here where my mouse is, and it should hide the keyboard is what it should do. The buttons right now for save and view, looks like the save one is going back up. Doesn't look like the back button's going back up. That's not, the hooks aren't in that one on mine anyway. So I'm going to stop mine and rerun it again. Looks like the save button hook's in there to where it does go to the back button. So if you guys want to stop yours and rerun it again once it runs the first time, and just click on that save button or maybe it's view contacts. View contacts is what did it. View contacts looks like there's hooks in there for that one, but the back button doesn't work yet. Okay, so if you'll go to the viewcontroller.swift real quick, we're going to start out at the very top of the code. I'm going to hide the stuff here on the right for just a second so you guys can see. While that's spinning on mine, if you'll go to your handout on page 1, I'm going to help you out with this. Now notice on page 1 on comment 1 where it says add message box function using alert view. The comment is in the code as well, but you'll notice what's not in the code on Xcode is the code underneath line 4, create account, the letter alert equals down to alert show. That's all you have to type in. Does that make sense? So before you start typing anything in on this handout, make sure you're not typing in like function names you don't need to type in, just the code that's not in Xcode already. Make sense? So kind of double check on your handout depending on what's on the screen before you start typing. Questions? So keep going and type in what it has you type in, or you can copy and paste from the repo if you want to. But there's not a lot of typing. It looks like there is, but it's 5 pages, but it's not a lot of typing. So, all right, I'm going to type with you actually. And it is very much syntax oriented, so make sure you keep, if it's uppercase, keep it uppercase, lowercase, keep it lowercase. Otherwise, it will not function. You'll get some errors. You might get errors as you're going along. Just ignore them until you're totally done. So here's what you want to do if you want. You can come to my computer. It's already up and running. Do that way. I already started typing some stuff in. I'm on actually number 2 comment, and all you need to type in is not the function information, but just the information that's not in Xcode. So you'll see like right here, number 2, add a touch function, yada yada yada. Notice the function name's there, the left bracket, right bracket's there, but this isn't here.
Oh, okay.
So you just type
So
that
we're
in.
just typing what's
Yep.
there. Okay.
All right, I'll let you sit there.
All right. Cool.
You guys mind listening to some music?
Sure.
There's a price war in the insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call the Term Lifeline right now and see if you can save 40%. $500,000 plans and up, that's our specialty. Even great smokers rates. Protect your family today. Call the Term Lifeline right now for a free quote. 800-430-1203. 800-430-1203. That's 800-430-1203.
Keep yourself and your wallet healthy with Wellness Plus with Plenty at Rite Aid. In addition to Plenty points, earn Wellness Plus points every time you shop. $1 spent on everyday items gets you 1 point, and get up to 25 points on every prescription you fill. When you've reached 1,000 Wellness Plus points, you'll get 20% off our regular prices for a year. And that's just one of the 4 ways to save.
Yeah, if you want
Now
to
through
give it to me.
September 24th, spend $50 a week on participating products at Rite Aid and earn 2,000 Plenty points worth $20 in savings. Visit riteaid.com/rakinpoints for details.
Should be enough room.
It's gonna need about 70 gigs.
70
It's too mushy for me. I'm gonna change it. Bob Seger. There we go.
I'm not afraid when the rain won't stop, 'cause you like
And then
the
we'll have
way,
an all down
you like the way, you like the way. You're gonna be when I got you in
Let us help you break your addiction to drug and alcohol. Call the addiction specialist now at the Detox and Treatment Helpline, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have private insurance, we specialize in finding you the right treatment. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. That's 800-296-1325.
Suspect your spouse is cheating? Find out for sure with Trustify. Locate a lost loved one or do an extensive background check on a caregiver or online relationship. Trustify investigators have solved over 5,000 cases discreetly, professionally, and quickly. Find the right investigator for your case. No retainers and 100% guaranteed. For free information, call now. 800-375-1173. That's 800-375-1173. 800-375-1173.
I didn't capitalize.
Okay, I know some of you might be finishing up, but we're going to go ahead and keep working on it. You're okay. Let's see here. Oh, right bracket on this one. Too many right, not enough right brackets. There we go. Let's see what else we got. Good, good, good. Okay, so let's start at the top of the code while some of you are still finishing. The first function was message box, just a pop-up for people to view on the alert view. And next one was the touches begin, dismiss keyboard, then text field should return. That is for the UI text field. Then the next few that has the function text field did begin editing, text field did end editing, text field did begin editing, and text view did end editing. Those are all 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all hide keyboard functions. And I'm going to show you real quick. I think I told you I'd show you how to do a snippet. So let's do this. Let's scroll to your code. Let's scroll to your code for number 2, and we're going to copy the entire function, override function touches begin. So if you hover over and highlight what I have on your Xcode, on just like I've done on mine. So highlight your Xcode where it says override func touches begin. Start with the word override down to the right bracket. Everybody got that? And you should see an Xcode on the bottom right of your screen. It's going to be much smaller on yours. There's a little library code called show the code snippet library. What we're going to do is drag that code into that area. So let me show you how to do it, and then you can do it. So I've selected this portion of code. And I'm going to click and drag it. Whoop. Click and drag it into this snippet area. It'll pop up here in just a second. Let me go to that area first, do it again. Put a thing called my code snippet down here. If I double click on it, here's where I can go in and edit this code snippet, and I'm going to title it hide keyboard, hit done. And now anytime I drag that snippet into my code, it's there for me. Okay. Now technically for code snippet for hide keyboard, I would need the touches begin, I would need the dismiss keyboard, should return would be okay. All of these down to probably line 8 function. Yes.
When you add that, can you use that in any app then?
Do I know?
Like, can you use the...
Yeah, in any app, exactly. It's available in Xcode in any app after that, right? And so that's the beauty of it. You can also go in and edit it as well. So if I wanted to add in more into that later, click and drag it, hover over, and it's going to add more into that text box. Oop, down there. And so there's my other one I just added there, which I'm not going to rename, but you can see how it works. So you can edit it on the fly. Like I could go in here and maybe I want to copy 2 down to line 8, function 8. I'll copy that, do a Command C, go into this hide keyboard, hit edit, and I'm going to scroll down and add in that other code that I just copied, hit done. You can also get rid of this snippet. And so that's how you do a code snippet. Pretty simple. And it's there for you from that point on your machine for Xcode, and then you can just drag and drop it and use it. So we did the hide keyboard. This, everything I've highlighted on the overhead is pretty much needed for hiding the keyboard and the scroll view to go to the scroll point. And here's the power of scroll point right here. Let me show you. Let's use a text box example. So let's go to this one here. Function text field should return resign keyboard. This is when they click away from the scroll view in that text box, in any text box, it's going to hide the keyboard. Here, whatever text box they're focused on, it's going to go and the name of that text box, Y coordinates, is going to go to that in the actual view, animated. Here on the did end editing, this is whenever the text view function, the scroll view, when it's done editing and they're off of it, it's going to take that back to true and set the content offset back to 0. For the text view, there's one in here as well. That's the bottom one, by the way, in the app, the very bottom one on the app. This is one I made for the text view. And by the way, these are generic functions that can be used for any app that uses a text field or a text view, either one. Because you know they're not name specific. None of them are name specific. Because like on this one here, it calls text fields the name. And any UI text view, this function is going to be fired upon in the scroll view. And it's going to go to that point in that scroll view. So all of these have to do with the scroll view and going to the point of the scroll view, depending on where it's at in the app. Let's see, let's go to the save button. The save button will do a dismiss keyboard first, which remember it does a resign first responder, hides any keyboard that's popped up. And some of your simulators will mistakenly not show the keyboard possibly at times. And if you just remember to do a Command K, it'll show it for you. So dismiss keyboard, it validates that all the text fields have something in it. And if it doesn't, it puts a message box up that says all fields are required, and use that message box function to do that. If there is content in all the text fields, it's going to test now to see if that text view at the bottom is empty. If it is empty, it's going to put in the word my contacts, new line, that /n means new line. So my contacts will be the title at the bottom, you'll see in a second. This line will then append to text contacts the fields for first, last, and email. And you'll notice at the end of every one of them there's a /n, that just means new line. Okay? Clears the text boxes at the top, then it goes to the scroll point for the back button at the bottom of the app and sets focus to it. So I'm going to go ahead and run mine like you guys have done already. So first I'm going to leave some text boxes empty on purpose just to make sure my message box is working first. Must have a breakpoint in there. Dismiss keyboard, misspelled maybe. Let's see here. Oh, breakpoint's in there. Delete the breakpoint. Okay, let's do it again. Okay, so no last name and put an email in there. You notice how it's floating up to the top like it should on the CG point. Message box, all fields required. Go ahead and put in the last name. Save it. Going now. There's the title I talked about. It sees this is empty at first. This only comes in once. If I go back and add another one in, so I'm just going to do gibberish on this one. It now just appends to that, so on and so forth. Yep. So, right there, put this here. So hide the keyboard is used tons in development for almost, well, every app's going to be using it. So the code I gave you tonight could be used for every app that you create in iOS. And let me switch gears here now. What you're going to do now is I want everybody to go to Xcode and go to quit Xcode for me. Xcode, quit Xcode. And let's exit out of the simulator as well. So click on the simulator, go to simulator, quit simulator. And we're going to go back to your GitHub desktop app. And you should notice some uncommented change or uncommitted changes. If you look at mine, see where it says history, and then to the left of that, 5 uncommitted changes. Click on that uncommitted changes tab, and you should see a number of uncommitted changes. Put your first initial last name in there. Your initial for your first and last name is fine. And then click commit to master. Now after I commit to master, the one thing I always do, I talked about last week and week before, is I always go to repository menu of GitHub and go to push it just to make sure it goes up. I especially do it here on campus because sometimes I've not done that and I went home and it didn't sync it right. Last thing I do, after I've committed it, pushed it, then go back to repository menu again and open this or view it on GitHub. It should go to your channel on GitHub and to your repo. And you should be able to click on the commits area here, like I'm circling on the overhead. See where mine says 5 commits? And it should have that initial of yours with your icon committed a minute ago. Okay? Everything else in there is commits I made 2 days ago and beyond, probably, right? So, make sense? So you've just now forked, cloned, made changes, exited out of Xcode, committed it, pushed it, and viewed it on GitHub. You'll be doing that from now on each week for our in-class and also for your homework. And once you do it a number of times, it's second nature. It's no big deal. And so you're just now learning it, so I don't expect you to know it by heart, but you will once you keep using it. Now I'm going to switch and go back to the presentation because there's a couple more things that we're going to talk about for next week, or just one more thing. So for your assignment, you're going to take what we've done in class, add to it though. There is in that PDF file, by the way, on your forked repo, a step-by-step of how I created this from scratch. So create it from scratch, add these fields, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone, email, add the needed code, which really you're going to have to add the objects, and you're going to also have to do outlets for these objects and delegates for these objects is what you're going to have to do. All right, outlets and delegates for the objects. Commit it to GitHub when you're done, and submit it below in the week 5. Well, let me show you before we're done here on the overhead, because this is being recorded. So I'll show you, and I do it in the video already, but I thought I'd show you real quick about the delegates and the outlet for the text fields real quick. So you don't have to open Xcode, you can just watch me real quick. So I'm going to go to my main storyboard. I'm going to click on the first one here, which is the first name. To find out what outlets and actions are on a view, if you look on the overhead, this icon right here, the little arrow icon, if you click on any object in your view storyboard and click on this arrow icon, it'll tell you what's bound to that in the app. Notice I've got a delegate outlet. Also, if I scroll on down further, there's another outlet for reference for TXT first. And that's created, by the way, this one here, when you drag and drop this into the code. And remember, we did that by, expand this out here, by drag and dropping that, control clicking it. I'll do it here. Control clicking it into the environment here, releasing it, naming it, connecting it. Done that before, right? But to do the delegate, it's a little different. All you've got to do is take that text view or text field, control click it and drag it to the view controller, the little yellow icon here, and then select delegate. All right? If you don't do that, the hide keyboard thing won't work, and the scroll view to the object won't work, either one. Make sense? What a delegate does is it puts hooks in the app for that object to have bound in memory during the run of the app, basically. Okay? And so if you don't delegate it, it won't be utilized and it won't work in the code for the hide keyboard. Make sense? So the only thing you've not done up to this point is you've done the control drag outlets, but you've not done the control drag delegate. And that's all you have to do is control drag it. And if you do it duplicate times, it's not going to hurt it, because I just did it again. I'll show you. If I go over here to my right arrow, just so there's only one delegate in there. Okay? Questions about delegate? And again, it's in the podcast again for this week, but I just thought I'd show it to you. You guys did a great job. There wasn't a lot of code, right? But, yeah. So, UI scroll viewer, hiding keyboard, very much needed and utilized. We went over that, went over Snippet, which you use a lot in developing. And due by next Monday is a modification of this. It's in your homework and discussion as always. And just remember also for week 4, if you've not submitted your app final idea, do that before midnight tonight. Questions? All right, well, we're done. If you have any questions about anything, come up and see me. Otherwise, see you next week. If you want to hang back and work on stuff, you can definitely do that. The lab's open here till 10. Yep, be right there.